Shalom and welcome to Practical Spirituality here in Jerusalem, the old city of Jerusalem, overlooking the Temple Mount right behind me. We are at Ushpiza, the amazing hall here, and I'm Yom Tov Glazer, and today we are going into a discussion that is about the nature of women. Now, you probably think that this is about typecasting women, like talking about their nature and stuff, but that's not exactly what we're talking about. What we're talking about is women and nature are bound together in a way that is much deeper, more profound, more real than males are connected to nature. In fact, maybe perhaps you would say that males are busy trying to tame nature for the most part. They're kind of at a war with nature. When I'm out mountain biking or surfing, it's kind of me against the ocean or me against the mountain and the wildlife, both in the ocean and the mountains. And it's about going out into the thorns and thistles and making your living and facing the physical natural world, whereas women are living, the feminine is nature itself. It's the symbiotic relationship with the natural world. We will notice, for example, that all natural things occur in sevens. Sevens like the big nature number. And let's talk about seven for a little while. And sevens also in the Hebrew alphabet is the letter Zion. And so Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zion. And the Zion is also known to be the feminine. And everything around nature is connected to the feminine. And in fact, God being called the masculine is only because God causes creation into existence. It's the causal, whereas the natural world is receiving that, and that's the feminine, is the receiver. And you'll notice that every single thing is either going to be the causal or the receiver, the causer and the receiver, which in Hebrew is called mashpia and makabel. You can practice those words. Mashpia, which means the causal, and the makabel is the feminine. And these exist in all of the world, and in fact in the male and female actual physical gender of a human being, they possess both the male and the female. So, for example, when my wife brings me something, like let's say she's bringing me dinner, so she's causing now, she's in the causal. And we always relate to women nurturing as the female, but they're actually causing. So like, for example, a woman nursing the baby, the woman's in the masculine and the baby's in the receiving. And when my wife brings me food, she's in the masculine and the feminine. When I thank her, she's in the masculine and I'm in the feminine, because now I'm asking her to please receive my thanks, and I'm going to cause gratitude in her direction. And so now she's going back to the feminine, which is probably a good reason to say thank you to one's spouse if they do something for you, to switch the role immediately, move it to so that I can be the feminine, the masculine, and give her thanks while she receives the thank you properly. And maybe our self-esteem, and a lot of people don't take thank you very well. They're self-effacing and don't know how to deal with gratitude, but maybe that's a further development of the feminine side, because if the feminine is the nature, so the nature itself doesn't have an ego, and but the female or someone in that more feminine nature could have a bigger propensity towards depression, because they're like nature, they're like dirt, they're like they don't have the only reason to have any, in my opinion, the only reason to have any self-confidence whatsoever is because you're a soul. Other than that, you're just a selfish, bag of bones full of every kind of animalistic desire. It's your soul that drives your higher interest, your higher, transcendent goals. And the goodness inside you is all the instinct of the soul. But I think perhaps there's a correlation with the female and the depression. And I wonder if there's even a correlation between a male who has very strong feminine side, meaning a male who's really like a woman in a man's body, if that's not already an indicator of depression and possibly suicidal ideation for someone. If they had a sex change, everyone would point to the fact that they had a sex change as what led to their suicide. But perhaps it could be that the feminine already had that propensity towards the nature, which has no sense of confidence whatsoever. It just is a neutral, completely humble fact. It's not of spiritual nature, which, as I said before, is the only reason why anyone should have any self-esteem or any self-confidence whatsoever, because otherwise it's just ego, and ego is fake, and it's not the authentic person, the ego. So then where would you get your self-confidence? The answer isn't ego. The answer is the soul, which vivifies your body. Anyway, so both men and women have this relationship to male and female in them. When you're receiving, you're in the female. When you're giving, you're in the male. And obviously in intimacy, it's hard to tell who's receiving, who's giving exactly, because your actual giving is causing your actual giving is the receiving of the pleasure. So it's like you're giving or receiving. And so it's a union of male and female that's happening, that you're both male and female at the exact same time, which is super strange considering that one is clearly male and one is clearly female when you get to the anatomical part of it. But if you look around, I'm looking at this mic stand here, but if you look around, you just can't, I don't want to sexualize the whole world for you, but you can't look at anything without seeing male and female, without seeing the causal and the receiver. For example, the cable is male, and this is that it's going into that it's clicking into is female. And the mic also has screws here, the same thing's happening. The mic's also being held in this thing, which is, once again, there it is, it's just like every screw in this chair is male and female. There's just nothing you can look at. Like, no matter what you look at, you will see the masculine and the feminine. And, this coffee cup, I don't know how they make coffee cups, but if it were ceramic, you would be pouring the ceramic into the mold. Sorry, it wouldn't be ceramic. Let's say it was glass. You'd be pouring the molten glass into the mold, which would be the masculine going into the feminine, which is now the mold. And then when it comes out, now it's a glass, and it becomes the feminine. And now you pour water into it. That's the masculine now going into the cup, which is now the feminine. And it's just like, it's literally everywhere. I mean, there's nowhere you can look. The sun is clearly the masculine. The ozone layer is the feminine. That's shielding us from it. The earth that receives the rays of the sun is the feminine. And the speaker system that you're listening to right now, if you're hearing me speak, is the masculine, and your eardrums, the feminine, which is sending nerves up to the cerebral cortex, which is the masculine, causing the neurons to be stimulated, which are receiving that vibration, the math. It's mathematics. It's receiving all the digital vibration, which is the feminine as it receives it. And then it's posting it to you, the conscious being, whose soul is somehow USB cable clicked into your conscious awareness of the words I'm saying, which is receiving it. It's like, the fact that I'm making speech here is definitely causative. And that's also the masculine, is the causative of the speech itself, and God causing creation also via speech is, shows us the magic of speech, and the spoken word is like, one of the great mysteries of reality. I mean, no one ever was able to come up to it with how it is we're able to do it. And notice that no thing in creation has speech. It's Only when you have a soul inside a body do you get speech. No soul in the body, no speech. So meaning when the God's spirit is imbued into a human being, there's speech. Otherwise, there's not. And now, obviously, I'll tell you a little more about speeches. The lungs are the desire of what you want to say. So I clearly desire to impart some knowledge to you, which anyway, I'm just channeling. I have no idea what I'm saying at any given time, ever, really. But the desire is the lungs. The vocal cords are the emotion. And I'm a little, deadpan today, but I'm also a little jet lagged. But anyway, the emotion is the vocal cords. And then the intellect handle the 5 exits of the mouth, which is the tongue, the palate, the teeth, the lips, and the guttural, which is the throat, which create the actual sounds. That's from the intellect. So somehow your brain cuts the sound of your vocal cords into words, which you cannot possibly do because the whole thing's math, and it's like massive equations that are hitting your eardrum right now, and they're coming straight out of me, and I don't know how they're coming out of me. It's my soul that's causing all this to happen, and it's your soul that causes your speech. Now, nature occurs in 7s. Let's go to the numbers now. 7 is nature. The masculine's the Vav, the 6, and the female, the feminine is the 7. And you'll notice that 7's basically where things are happening. So for example, in space, you have a cube is like the representation of space. So it has 6 sides, and it has a 7th, which is the center. Weekdays, human beings can only exist on Earth in a 7-day cycle. 6 days, and the Sabbath is the center. It's the center. These 6 days are just aspects of the center. The lunar cycle moves in 7s. The solar is working in 7s. The musical scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, everyone wants me to go to the 1, but it's a 1, 1. It's not an 8, it's a 1. It's called an octave, but an octave is 1 to 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And the musical scale just comes out 7, and the color scales also. The color spectrum, the rainbow, the actual natural color spectrum is 7 colors as well. And the woman is connected to this because her reproductive cycle works in 7s. She's connected to the 7 world. And it's just 7's happening all over the place. Interestingly, that men who are a bit in conflict with nature, kind of here to conquer it, be the king and the dominant, the dominator, the competitor, men who have all that going on, we strap ourselves down with a piece of nature, with leather, which is the animal instinct, is leather. And we take that leather and we tie our arm, we strap a leather strap around our arm, and guess how many loops we put on our arm, on our forearm, representing our strength? 7. And we put 7 loops on our arm again to bring us back to nature. And we'll be getting to the Sukkot holiday, which is all about the rains, which is nature. It's the water that sustains life on earth. And we'll be just praying for rain the whole time. And we'll be, each day will be, it's a 7-day holiday. We'll be going around the bima, which is where the center of the synagogue is, where we read from the scroll, from the Torah. And we'll be going around it once each day. And on the 7th day, we'll be going around it 7 times. And then on Simchas Torah, the day we dance with the Torah, we'll be going around. We'll have 7 rounds of dancing around with the Torah. And when do we do that? We do that on the 8th day, meaning after the 7 days of the holiday, we have the 8th day, which is called Shemini Atzeres, which is like the holiest day of the whole year. It's like It's because it's beyond the 7. It's the 8th. It's 8 represents infinity. Like that number 8 is an infinity sign. So the 8, Shmini Atzeres, is this the holiest day, where we're going to do 7 dances with the Torah around. But what's the Torah? The Torah is pure prophecy. It's not from this world. It's from above the sun. It's the only meaningful thing. As King Solomon says, that everything under the sun is the meaning man makes, and the inference you make, the diuk, is over the sun, meaning God's will and wisdom as it flows through prophecy into this world, best experienced in the Torah, is that's the only meaningful thing, really. That's meaning, when I say the only meaningful thing, I mean the only thing that has empirical meaning. Everything else is our subjective meanings. For example, just the beauty of the spot I'm sitting in is subjective things that we figured, that you would enjoy as a background to my talking. This is subjective meaning, although this is an actual arc here for the Torah, and that would be objective. And this is a depiction of the Beit HaMikdash, the temple, and on the Temple Mount. And that would be empirical, because the depictions of that, the description, the measurements, everything about it is from the Torah, is part of the prophecy. So it's really from above the nature. It's part of the prophetic wisdom, which means it's empirically meaningful. Anyway, these are just things to think about. I'll segue for a second on that. I think it's important to note that if meaningful things are things that are above nature, meaning that are things that are from God, basically, and that's what's imbued with true meaning, like actual empirical meaning. So that means that everything else is subjective, and there's nothing wrong with it, meaning my taste in music, my relationship to my sports and my sporting equipment, and my favorite color is blue, and that's all just subjective. That's just, my stuff. If I want to be connected to eternity, that would be my focus on things that are part of that which is beyond nature. So if the fact that your consciousness lives on, well, what it lives into, you'd definitely want to be dedicating as much time as you can handle on spiritual things that are of infinite import, because those are the only things with empirical meaning. Those are the only things that would be everlasting. My favorite color, blue, will not be everlasting. My mountain bike rides, not everlasting. They last while I ride. However, everything else I'm doing that has to do with Torah, that has to do with prayer, that has to do with mitzvahs, that has to do with the kindness, or the imparting of Torah, the raising of a family, the feeding of guests, all of that is eternal. And so you kind of want to build your portfolio, meaning enjoy your subjective meaning. You're driving a nice sports car, enjoy it, be careful, but definitely experience its G-forces. Okay, don't be a ninny in your sports car. Like, drive it for real, or at least find someone who knows how to drive and sit in the passenger seat. But that won't build your portfolio upstairs. So you want to. It's something important to know that you have an eternal portfolio, and you have a portfolio that's only for this world, and you definitely want to build your eternity. And the last thing that's important to know about this is that all your drama in your life, like someone didn't treat you the right way, or all the triggers you have. Triggers that make you feel like you're worthless, or like unimportant, or ugly, or stupid, or unwanted, unlovable, small, weak, lost, unsafe. And this includes all your fears: your fear of rejection, your fear of failure, your fear of being controlled by or overwhelmed by others or situations, your fear of the unknown. All of that is subjective. It's all subjective. You made that stuff up, because you see the guy next to you is not afraid of that stuff. So if you're stopped by it, that is not based in reality. It's not at all in reality. And that's why when people come to the Possible You seminar, they find themselves where fears that had been holding them back to the point where it had become, the fear itself had become, let's just say their personality was governed by those fears. And they find themselves, after going through the work and finally realizing that everything under the sun doesn't have empirical meaning, and getting that deep in their bones, suddenly the fears are like gone. Because it's like, why are you making stuff up here? And it's not making you happier. And it's not making you more courageous, and it's not bringing you more love and connection. So people are able to dump their heavy baggage of subjective persona garbage that they'd been carrying around, some because of trauma, some because of family dynamics, some because of community dynamics, some because of embarrassing moments. You name it, we're all carrying it, and you can drop it. You can literally live your life without it. And suggest going, checking out my website at thepossibleyou.org, just to tune into some of those teachings and to book yourself, register yourself to a seminar near you. Meanwhile, let's get back to the numbers, is that so the woman also has the sevens going on in her reproductive system, and partially why women find deep fulfillment in that. I was just watching a story of a guy who died, and he was hovering above his body. This was on Living L'chaim podcast, Langer's podcast. Anyway, this guy had been hit by a train and died, and he was hovering around his body, and he was able to see everyone who was coming to visit his body before his soul clicked back in. What was I going to say about him? Is that when he finally, his soul clicked back in, he wasn't able to talk because there were tubes down his throat, but he took a pen, and the first question he asked was, would he still be able to have kids? Which was, his legs were gone at this point. He didn't know that. He was left for dead, basically, in a hospital room. But his first question was that. But this was a guy who had basically a meaningless life. He was just partying, and in fact, the reason he got run over by a train was because he was drunk and high and just had no life. The last thing he was thinking about was kids. But the very first question he asked was, would he still be able to have kids? The answer was yes, by the way. But it's just very interesting that the nature, not the nature, but the spiritual, meaning when he found out he had a soul. And the second he found out he had a soul, so his first thing was can I create? It's very interesting. Can I actually create a family? It's such an interesting thing. And women who have this connection in nature with the sevens have a tremendous need to be a mother, way, way beyond a man's need to be a father. Like a man's perceived need to be a father is, for sure men have a paternal instinct, but nothing like the maternal instinct that a woman has. And the emptiness they may feel if those years pass them by and they were not able to have children, and Hashem should give them strength, all the women who weren't able to create children, and certainly if you're one of them and you're listening to this, you have all the gifts in the world to give this planet. And you should celebrate them and give them. Meanwhile, so women represent this nature, and the masculine is the kind of the wants to tame nature in a way. And this can be an unrectified part of being a man, is like being kind of scared of the power of the nature of the female and wanting to subdue it somehow. Not necessary, although it may be roles to play out that would be very exciting for a female. Meaning when the man is playing masculine, he's playing conqueror mode, and he's sending out that vibration of power. It could very well be that that is a dynamic that would be very good for a marriage. But that dynamic of power can't be the kind of power that is causing the other to be unempowered, because the nature of the world is very powerful. Like, for example, when I'm surfing on waves, I'm not unempowering the wave. The wave retains every ounce of its power. In my relationship with my wife, she wants me guiding the family. She wants me saying where I'm taking her to. You know, she wants that masculine conqueror in her life. However, not at all with diminishing her light. And you know, my conquering the trails on the mountains is not at all to diminish the mountain itself. It retains its power. And so I think that's an important distinction when it comes to males and females, and how the female does want the conqueror, you know, and that's why, you know, there's books like No More Mr. Nice Guy, and you know, like helping train men to stop being in that position of pleasing women, because women can't stand it. It's just it weakens men, and the women can't stand it. They don't respect it. They're not attracted to it. And it's you know, it's really a problem. And men whose fathers were in some cubicle or in some business, and the boys didn't see them all day, and then they're raised by a bunch of female teachers from young age. So they got their mother they're pleasing, they got the female teachers they're pleasing. You know, that's going to create a lost boy. You know, that's going to create a very lost boy, and it will not create the vibrations that a female would be interested in marrying. And if he does manage to get married, it will be a reversed polarity dynamic where she's the causal and he's the receival. And he's, you know, it's a disaster. And once she turns 35, because between 35 and into the 50s is where the female, you know, where her firework really goes off as a female, meaning her feminine side, her femininity is extremely powerful from the late 30s on. When that happens, if he hasn't developed his masculine side, so then, you know, forget not wanting to touch him. She doesn't want to look at him. She doesn't want to smell him, and all the intimacy just disappears at that point. And so it's either the intimacy is going to quadruple if he's got the proper vibrations, or it's going to become next to nothing. And this is why, for example, I take very few clients, but once in a while I'll take a client and just train him to discover his power as a man. And one of the ways we know it's working is because his wife is getting very upset with him because of the switching of roles that he's doing. He's bringing back the polarities to where they belong. She's getting very upset with him, but she wants him. So it's like I can't tell if I want to kill you or I want you. And the answer is she wants to kill him and she wants him. But that's how we know it's working, because now she's losing ground that she never would have wanted in the first place. But the nature of the female is to always pick up slack. Women will pick up the slack of their husbands, of their families, of their workplace. They just pick up the slack. It's I don't know where it comes from, but that's the nature of females. So if the man's slacking in any aspect, she will pick up that responsibility, and he will once again be weakened. She'll be strengthened, losing respect. Respect and attraction go together. If she loses respect, the attraction goes away. And anyway, recipe for disaster. bottom line is that a man is excited by nature. I'm excited by the ocean waves. I'm excited by the mountains. It's exciting for men. It's not scary. It's where the adventure is. Man's relationship to nature, and especially where nature is a little dangerous, is where, that's where the excitement begins. That's where the interest is piqued. It's where, it's where it's at. Like that's what men love. So, if a woman is getting feisty, and she's, meaning when a woman's at the height of her femininity, because it goes in waves, and when her femininity is high, and she's getting feisty and maybe even accusatory and a little attacking, all she's really trying to do is fitness test her male to see how he would react. Most males would just run away, they'll run for their lives. If he already did the runaway, I mean, he already went to the bathroom, or he already went to the synagogue or whatever, and he's like, he has nowhere left to run, so then he'll attack back. And, what kind of man fights a woman? That's not a man. And so once again, he blew it. But quite the opposite, that when a woman's at the height of her femininity and she's now fitness testing her man, the man should be excited by it, meaning as she's, going in on him to see how he'll react, to see if he can just be there, the man is supposed to be like super solid, square your shoulders, head right in the center of your spine, like really aligned and strong, and his head's squared off, and super turned on by the fact that she is now in this state. Now the state happens to be an unstable state, and he's supposed to be the stability. So running away is only going to cause further instability. Smacking her down, meaning fighting her, making her wrong, is just going to cause further instability. So that's not going to be helpful. But being a solid citizen and watching the storm, that's where you want to be. So the way I look at it is, imagine a captain of a tanker who's been at it for 30 years, and he's weathered the biggest storms, the biggest waves, 70, 80-foot waves in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So when his weatherman says to him that we have at 70 degrees a giant storm coming our way with 80-foot seas, so what does the guy do? What does the captain do? He says, "Thank you for the information." And he just grabs that big wheel and he just starts turning it to 70 degrees and just going in, just going straight in. Turns it sideways, he's going into the ship's going to capsize. Going away from it's not going to be helpful. The seas are moving faster than his tanker's going to go. Just go in. Move into it. Go straight for it. And the same thing as a surfer. Like sometimes I was out there as a young man and the waves were just unbelievably huge and dangerous. And it was towards it. I'll never forget this one day. I was in Mexico and we were there quite a bit, at least once a month. And we're out there, the waves are they were big. They were like maybe 10 feet height of a ceiling or something, like a 1-story building. So it was like 10 feet. Maybe 12 feet, a little bigger, and waves are big. We're having a great time. And it turned out, though, while we're paddling back out, me and my best friend, we see the whole horizon just disappears. And surfers are always watching the horizon because you want to know where the next wave's coming. So we scan the horizontal layer of the horizon of the ocean to know where the next wave's going to be, and the best spot to catch it. But all of a sudden, the entire horizon disappeared, which means there's waves twice as big coming. Meaning we're going from 12 or 10 to, now there's some 20-footers coming in, meaning rogue waves that, and we're way too far out already to swim in. But my friend, his fear took him over, and he turned his board around and started paddling in, and which is dangerous because you could easily get taken down by such a, really put yourself in danger. What you need to do is be paddling as hard as you can to get to deeper water so that you can hopefully get up and over those waves before they break, or at least cut through them as they're breaking, and then you'll get up and over the next one. And so we just paddled. As I told my friend, turn around, get your board pointing out to sea, and start going towards the danger, not away from it. Go towards it. And by the way, I'm speaking to all the men who have been blowing it when their wife is presenting with this like unbelievable storm. That means that she wants a male. She's looking for you right now. She doesn't want you running away. She doesn't want you fighting her. She's looking for who can be solid in the middle of this attack. So anyway, we start paddling out, and now we finally see the waves. Like now it's in front of us, and we're just like, holy moly, we're scratching as hard as we can, and the first wave pitches, giant tube, and we managed to cut through it. And the next one, there's just a bunch of them. So the next one we also cut through right before the lip of the wave. And then the next one we got up and over, and the next one we got up and over. And then we were like now in deeper water. And then I said to myself, did I come here to survive, or did I come here to thrive? Meaning, did I come here to just stay alive, or did I come here to surf? The answer, I came here to surf. Now, I happen to not be on the right equipment for a 20-foot wave. You need a longer board, more momentum when you paddle to be able to get into the thing. But, I'm not going to sleep tonight. I'm not going to sleep tonight with the feeling that I didn't turn around to ride one of these waves. And so now, once we were in deep enough water to be safe, I just said, I'm going. So I just flipped my board around for the next wave, and I just started scratching now towards the shore as this wave's picking up and picking up and picking up. And I'm on too short a board to get enough speed to get in, which means my board's just rising up and rising up near the lip of the wave. And the last second, when I finally got in the wave, threw my board down, let it drop down, got on my feet, and just and got the longest ride I think I had gotten that year, because we were so far out. And I got off on the beach of this 20-footer. And I literally almost got off on the sand on the shore. And I was just like, yeah, amazing. And so, as a husband, you're the surfer. And as a woman, you're the nature. And the man has to learn how to ride the waves, how to turn towards the storm, and to be a solid citizen for his woman when the storm's, howling. And captains of ships live in those storms. Surfers dream of those storms. So you're married to the storm. You're married to nature, and that's beautiful. And be the man for your woman, and yeah, you got this. Anyway, so subscribe to the channel, and please hit the like button, hit the bell so you get notified for every class. And obviously go to thepossiblyou.org to check out my work there and register for a seminar. Looking forward. Blessings.